Hello and welcome to another Stompy 51 miniature adventure. It's been a long summer, but here I am. I'm back, and today, in no particular order, we're going to look at some made-to-order metal goodness I got from GW, being some common trolls, 3 of them, 2 of them, 6 stone trolls. We're going to compare the stone trolls to some fantastic Felix Paniagua Avatars of War 3D printed trolls, which I've had kicking around for a couple of years. Then look at an Orc War Boss on Wyvern unboxing from Games Workshop, made to order, and then have a look at some Fairclough, I think 10mm orcs for Warmaster, which I've had blown up to 30mm. So if you regularly watch my little hobby adventure channel, and you should, you'll be familiar with the very slow burn, Oldhammer, old school Orc Army projects I have, taking as many of these little miniatures as possible from Games Workshop's 1990s, or any Kev Adams ever, because he's just a legend, and putting them into a Kings of War Orc army. But I'm not going to go through each of these miniatures again, because there is a video somewhere about that already if you scroll down on my list of content. The baseline comparison for when we look at various metal trolls that I recently ordered. Within the 180 days the Games Workshop promises to deliver them, I ordered some of these made to order common trolls and stone trolls, and I thought we would do a bit of an unboxing. So these are common trolls. Annoyingly, I actually had the third one, which is plastic, and I think from the Battle of Skull Pass set, but I stupidly flogged it for like £3 because at the time I thought, oh, I'll never be able to get these common trolls ever again, and so what do I need this random plastic troll for, holding a dwarf bit of broken masonry over his head? Grrr. And so now I'll have to work out how to get that one, because pretty much every rule system anticipates you having 3 common trolls. Where's a head? Oh, his head's over here, upside down, as it is. Yeah, that's a common troll. There you go. And they come with their 40mm bases, which is nice, because I was thinking the other day, I've always assumed bases to be like this invisible dark matter of my hobby, just there, always available and free. But the reality is, because all these systems kind of dart from base to base system, or you need to pick up bases for miniatures that never came with one, especially if you got them secondhand, I think I probably have spent a fair bit of cash on bases, albeit on eBay. You can get some very good deals, and increasingly I've started to think that MDF basing is perfectly acceptable. Wow. Anyway, so how big is he compared to, say, one of the really old school orcs? Where's that head gone? So still quite clearly a big and chunky troll. Was this Gary Morley? Still quite clearly a big and chunky troll. And against these quite chunky Kev Adams miniatures, non-Games Workshop. And while we're at it, because this is also a bit of a general project update on my Kings of War Orc army, you know me, I love a bit of a random kit bash. And there is a monster in Kings of War for Orcs called the War Drum. Mount on a war wagon, now that would be cool, I haven't done that. Increasing speed to 8. Upgrade the unit with Dread, I might do that. Base size cannot be increased beyond 50mm by 50mm. So this is still a 50mm base, if not mounted. And this is the War Drum with crushing strength, so they run and hit you. Rally, which I think means they help their mates kind of not panic. And this seems to be how you hold together your Orc heavy infantry line, and you'll recognize that these are very, very slightly converted early 2000s Games Workshop plastics, with one head back there by Spellcrow and one head up front here by 3D printed Avatars of War. And then the drum is from one of the Middle-earth strategy games kits, possibly the Troll. I am playing with the crazed idea of getting into the new Middle-earth strategy battle game when it comes out, but using Oathmark miniatures for orcs and goblins as far as I can. But that is really one-off on the wild horizon, because I've got plenty going on at the moment. But let's crack open this box. These 2 boxes of 6 stone trolls, because trolls are hulking creatures whose hunched appearance belies their powerful nature. I think that means even though they've got bad posture, they can still bash your head in. They adapt to their environments. River trolls, bloated creatures with slimy hides and a terrible stench, dwell along riverbanks. But by contrast, stone trolls are long-limbed brutes with stone-dry cracked hides that can be found wandering the slopes and passes of the old world's many mountain ranges. Despite their many physical differences, all trolls are dim creatures with indiscriminate appetites and will eat anything from flesh and bone to wood, rocks, and even scrap metal. Not surprisingly, the stomach of a troll contains potent digestive juices, which trolls can vomit up onto their enemies. And those are the words of the Warhammer in the old world, ravening hordes, army list for the forces of evil being the orcs and goblins. And they scale up pretty nicely against this Renegade Miniatures Kev Adams orc, albeit he's obviously quite a big orc. Let's have a look. These are the more old school ones. Let's open them up. Try a laugh. I had a few of these, but I got rid of most of them because they were so teeny tiny compared to the more recent Kev Adams offerings. Oops. I mean, look. And so I think their future is likely to be standing on the back of a chariot. I've got ideas for that for another time. Yeah, he's pretty chunky against them. And still reasonably chunky against the 1990s plastics. So that's the one dude. Oh, this was one of my favorites. I suppose answers on a postcard. What is your favorite stone troll? Because it shows them at one with nature. You know, if they're all about rocks and mountainousness, well, what better thing than to pick up a giant rock to smash someone's head in? And I must say, these are beautifully cast. So that's the one box with its, thank heavens, 3 40mm bases. And what's in the box? What's at the back there? Oh. There's all this stuff. Warning, small sharp points in many different languages, and something actually made in the UK. Brilliant. And all the social media. And you can't be 0 to 3 and have these. What does that mean? You'll be 12 plus. Well, I'm very much 12 plus. Would my parents have let me have these before I was 12? Well, I think the answer is probably yes, if we could have afforded it. All right. Are these the same? Please tell me they're not the same. No. They're not the same. Ah, and he comes with integral head. And this one looks like he's doing a bit of a jazzy nightclub dance. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. They look great. Yeah. There you go. And the last one. Yeah. It looks pretty good too. I can't do a family shot, unfortunately. Maybe I'll do one at the end. Now wait, how many can we get in here? Oh, there we go. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. Ah, brilliant, great fun. Now, I'm not going to totally put them away because I went through a phase of being quite excited by 3D printed stuff, which I didn't print myself, but I bought the STLs and got someone who actually knows what they're doing to print them up for me. And so, Avatars of War, Felix Paniagua, who once was a Games Workshop sculptor, did some fantastic work of what were clearly proxy miniatures for Warhammer. And they weren't really intended to be Age of Sigmar-ish. I think they were more intended to be for Warhammer in the Old World, at a time when Warhammer in the Old World was dead. And so I picked up some STLs of these stone trolls, which you can see are quite clearly, how shall we put it, inspired by them. And they are much bigger, albeit being 3D printed. You could print them at any scale you wanted. I think these are just how they came and reflect, I think, the newer stone troll plastics. I can't remember what they've renamed their stone trolls so that they can kind of secure their intellectual property rights by finding some wacky name that isn't obviously just Norse mythology and open to all. But the thing is, I got a bit fed up with 3D printed stuff, largely because some of them just sort of chipped, largely because I found some of them a bit fiddly, and because I couldn't quite control the scale until I'd got them. I got a bit fed up because some of them were just too big or too small, and I don't have the patience to get involved in what I understand to be its own little mini hobby. But Felix Paniagua is pretty good. I mean, look at how multi-part all of this is, albeit, look at that. It's a bit strange. I mean, who would walk around kind of doing bench presses with some kind of skull-crushing Warhammer? But anyway, I thought I would show you them anyway, as I had them within arm's reach in the garage. And they're clearly very stone trolly. And I think if I ever did paint them, they would be contrast painted. And I suppose what would I use these with? It's a long way away, but I've got a lot of Battle of Skull Pass. I think it was that, Night Goblins. And they're all round based, took me a long time. And I would use them for the Gloomspite Gits faction. But at the moment, I've been playing with Stormcast Eternals, which are much easier to play with, and I really need to get around to building at least some part of the Stormcast Eternals I've got from the Skaven Tide box set that I bought largely to support my friendly local gaming store. So I mean, again, these absolutely tower over ye olde orcs. And here's the last one. Oops. There you go. I mean, exactly, look at that one. He's pretty much straight off that guy. Now, while I was at it, I couldn't help but pick up something I could use as a Crudger on Winged Slasher, which is basically a big boss on Wyvern for Mantic Games Kings of War. And I thought to myself, even though I have a 3D printed Avatars of War one, it's just too fiddly and doesn't look sufficiently Oldhammer enough to fit in with my little box of Kev Adams goodness here. And so I ordered this big boss on Wyvern, and crikey, those are plastic wings that I haven't seen in that form for about 30 years. So they're decent plastic wings. And what else is in here? It's very light, which suggests there's no metal in here. Yep, no metal. We've got a lot of resin in here. But it's not the nasty fine cast stuff. It looks pretty decent to me. We'll have to see. How can we unseal this with elegance? Oh wait, we can't. And it's quite hard to look through an iPhone camera at the same time as doing things with your hands. Right. There we go. What have we got there? So we've got the torso, the neck. I actually had one of these in metal and it was an absolute pain because it just kept falling apart. You had to stick giant pins into it. And I remember one Games Workshop red shirt walking past me whilst assembling and saying, or rather sniggering, haha, kids, you know, if they can't get something to fit, they just keep putting more and more super glue onto it. And I was like, well, yes, we do. And because I like making my stuff bespoke, I think I would get a different shield, even though look at that one. What a shield. And possibly a different head. Maybe one of the Spellcrow heads. There's a lot of big boss Spellcrow heads I've got. But to be fair to this kit, could I do better than that head? Possibly not. It is a fantastic head. Anyway, I do always think that one needs to crack on with assembling these things as soon as possible, because I've noticed as the years go by, random bits just seem to go missing. So always best to assemble on arrival. But I've been so busy over summer with work, a lot of crazy deadlines, and with family. I mean, you know, family's adorable, but it does take you away from what counts. Now, as they say in Dr. Seuss, that is not all. No, that is not all, because the main flaw in my plans for this old school styled Orc Kings of War army are that I don't really have enough basic Orc infantry. What's in that box is probably only enough for a couple of units, maybe one regiment of 20. And so, although I could use a lot of trolls, as you can see, I think they're more for the goblin faction, to be honest. And so, using the miracle of 3D printing, there's someone called, is it JC Fairclough? A fantastic sculptor who does old school style stuff. And I think even though they designed these, can I get them in focus? I've had trouble with this camera. Yes, I can. Even though they designed these at, I think, 15mm or 10mm for one of those Renaissance games. I can't remember what it's called. Warmaster Renaissance. They, I did speak to my mate about blowing these up so that they could be put on a 25mm base, and then I would just put some kind of clay to kind of fill in the gap between the fact that these are round base and they would be on 25mm wide bases. And let's just see, would that work? Oops. Uh-oh. It looks like I might end up having to chop off some of the edges of the bases and then build them up. Or, actually, because Manta Kings of War is a multi-base game, I actually could just get bigger bases and just shovel them on in a haphazard way, which would be great because I will be using these as Morax heavy infantry. They can take an Orcish skull pole for 5 points, and there is a fantastic Orcish skull pole in here. I mean, look at that. If that is not an Orcish skull pole, then what is? And they come with crushing strength and wild charge D3 with the berserk keyword. So they clearly are savage orcs. And how do they measure up against normal orcs? Well, I say normal orcs, but is he Gary Morley? So he's obviously going to be some kind of leader, that fellow. He's not really a good comparison. I mean, they're still... No, they're not. But these are tiny, and actually these are not representative of most of the Oldhammer orcs I have in this box. Exactly. I mean, look at this fella. Yeah, so they probably are broadly in keeping. And they look slightly different in style. These are a bit more cartoonish. But then again, you know, these are different species. And if they're in a different unit, who's going to notice or care? And I think I've got something like 35 of these. You could have, I think, up to 3 units of these, of 20 in a 2,000 point army. And so I think if I multi-base them, I could probably spread these out to 2 units. So some come with 2-handed weapons, some come with one weapon and a shield. The command guys are throughout, there's quite a few of them. That fella, there's a few of them with spears, and although I was maligning that a lot of the 3D printed stuff just seems to break, and so I've kind of gone against it. Someone did explain to me, you know, you can pay a lot more money for much better resin, which is a bit bouncier, but then once you're into that territory, you know, you might as well just go and buy a lot of fantastic Nightmare miniatures, Kev Adams sculpts from Spain at reasonably great expense, and no doubt a lot of admin charges and import duty. And so I'm going to stick with this particular resin and just try and be gentle with it. Oh, another Orc Boss pole. And another Orc Boss pole. Dum-de-dum-de-doo. 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 Yeah. The beating of the drums. Washing of the spears. And all of that. Yeah, so the bosses are humongous on this. Let me just give you a sense. Look at the bosses. It's about the same scale as the 2000s plastics. There's another boss. And I suppose I would just put them on a bigger base up front to kind of bulk out the rest of the unit, because I don't have 40, I've only got 35. But there is something menacing and yet cartoonish about them. They remind me of the ogres from the Gummy Bears, that cartoon in the 90s. Yes, Duke Igthorn, I am now promoted from footstool to doormat, or whatever little Toadwort used to say. I'm showing my age there. And if these were ever printed, I think I would keep it very, very simple. No tattoos. Like little squiggy beards. It's quite funny how in 3D printing, they keep the same principle as they used to with dollies, metal dollies. You know, have one kind of base torso and maybe head, and then just do a bit of tweakery with the peripherals, the weapons, etc. And there you go. Thank you for watching to the end. Do like, comment, and subscribe, because all these things help people find my happy-go-lucky little channel and makes me feel loved. I hope to see you around soon. Keep well, keep safe, and maybe next time we can sift through my Darkest Africa cobblestone collection.